The truth left the galaxy in stunned silence. Representatives from every major species sat in the council chamber on Centauri Prime, trying to understand what Lisa Park had learned from her contact with ascended humanity. They had begged for their human friends to return, never knowing that humans had answered by becoming something far greater and more sacrificial than anyone had imagined. Lisa stood before the Galactic Council, her face still pale from the ritual that had nearly killed her. She carried humanity's final message, words that would change how every species viewed their missing protectors. We have not left you. We have become something more. Every act of kindness, every choice for peace over war, every moment when you protect the innocent, we are there with you. We are the conscience you carry, the hope you maintain, the love you share. Ambassador Kethvar of the Threnody Empire was the first to speak after Lisa finished her report. His forearms trembled as he processed the magnitude of humanity's sacrifice. They gave up everything they were to become what we needed them to be, he said quietly. They became eternal guardians so we could learn to guard ourselves. The ascended humans kept their promise about manifesting during critical moments. When the war between the hegemony and free worlds reached its most dangerous point, Dr. Mary Thompson appeared in the negotiation chamber. She had been the head of the human diplomatic corps before the ascension, known for her ability to find common ground between the most bitter enemies. Dr. Thompson's appearance was brief but powerful. Her form seemed to be made of starlight and memory, solid enough to speak but clearly not fully physical. She looked at the warring representatives with eyes that held infinite patience and spoke in a voice that carried the weight of cosmic wisdom. "Look at what you are doing," she said simply. "Look at what you are throwing away. Your children will inherit the ashes of your hatred, or they will inherit the garden of your cooperation. Which legacy do you choose to leave them?" Her presence alone was enough to shame both sides into remembering what they had once meant to each other. The war ended with a peace treaty negotiated in 3 days, something that should have taken months. Dr. Thompson faded back to her ascended state with a smile and the words, "We believe in you. We have always believed in you." The Vorthax swarm found their expansion permanently halted by barriers of conscious energy that they could not understand or overcome. Captain Bill Harrison, who had died defending a refugee convoy years earlier, manifested at their border when their bioships tried to break through into populated space. Bill's form towered above the swarm's living vessels, his presence radiating, a protective force that made the bioships recoil in pain. He spoke to the swarm's collective mind with simple authority. This far and no further. Choose evolution over extinction. Choose growth over consumption. The galaxy has room for all. Life that chooses to build rather than destroy. The swarm retreated to their home systems and began the slow process of learning to exist without consuming other species. It was a change that would take generations, but Bill's intervention had planted the seeds of transformation in their collective consciousness. As years passed, the galaxy learned to function with humanity's new role. Monuments to the ascended became centers of conflict resolution. Before making war, species would visit human memorial sites and ask themselves what their vanished friends would do. The question, "What would humans think of this?" became a common way to test whether an action was right or wrong. Lisa Park established the Human Memory Foundation, dedicated to preserving the stories and wisdom of ascended humanity. She traveled to every world humans had ever visited, recording thousands of accounts from aliens who had known humans personally. These stories became a living testament to humanity's sacrifice and love. Children across the galaxy grew up with bedtime stories about ascended human heroes watching over them from beyond the physical world. When merchant ships faced destruction, in stellar storms, their mixed species crews swore they could see ghostly forms guiding them to safety through impossible navigation. Captain Gary Wilson, who had been famous for his skill at bringing damaged ships home safely, became a legend. Among space travelers, pilots reported seeing his translucent form in their cockpits during emergencies, his hands guiding theirs on the controls, his voice whispering navigation instructions that saved lives. When the Caraxian Research Station discovered a cure for the plague ravaging their homeworld, Dr. Rachel Kim's consciousness briefly merged with their lead scientist. She shared knowledge that had been lost with humanity's ascension, information that saved billions of Coraxian lives and stopped the plague from spreading to other species. The manifestations were not frequent, and each one cost ascended humanity tremendous effort, but they came when they were truly needed, when the galaxy faced crises that required both transcendent awareness and physical action. Each appearance reminded the living that love could transcend even death itself. Trade routes that had been plagued by pirates found themselves mysteriously protected. Ships carrying medical supplies to disaster zones made impossible journeys through dangerous space without incident. Diplomatic missions that should have failed succeeded against all odds, as if invisible hands were guiding events toward peaceful solutions. Lisa Park aged gracefully, her role as humanity's representative, giving her purpose but also deep sadness. She was the bridge between two worlds, forever connected to her ascended people, but forever separated from them by the barrier between physical and transcendent existence. In her private moments, Lisa would visit the memorial garden on New Terra, where she had first encountered signs of ascended humanity's presence. She would sit beside the markers honoring human heroes and speak quietly to the empty air, sharing news of the galaxy's progress and her own struggles with loneliness. Sometimes, when the light was just right and the quantum winds were calm, she could almost see them. Translucent figures moving between the memorial stones, tending to flowers that bloomed in impossible colors, maintaining a watch that would last until the stars themselves grew cold. The galaxy learned that humanity's greatest gift had never been their military might or diplomatic skill. It was their infinite capacity for growth, sacrifice, and love. They had chosen to become myths and legends so that other species could find their own paths to greatness. The last entry in Lisa's journal, written shortly before her own death from old age, read, "They did not leave us. They became what we needed them to become. And someday, when we have learned to be what they always believed we could be, maybe we will understand what they chose and why. Until then, we carry their love forward, one act of kindness at a time. Above every world, in quantum frequencies beyond normal perception, ascended humanity continued their eternal watch. They were ready to intervene when the galaxy faced its darkest hours, but they ultimately trusted in the goodness they had helped nurture in the species they had chosen to protect forever. The galaxy had not gotten humanity back in the way they had wanted. Instead, they had received something far more precious, the eternal assurance that love, sacrifice, and hope could transcend even death itself. Humanity had become the galaxy's soul, invisible but indestructible, watching from beyond the veil with infinite patience and unconditional love. And in the cosmic void beyond known space, where ancient horrors stirred and entropy itself took form, ascended humanity stood guard. They were the watchers in the dark, the light that held back the night, the love that refused to let evil have the final word. They had given up everything to become everyone's protectors, and they would maintain their vigil until the end of time itself. The galaxy's crisis grew worse each day while Lisa Park struggled with the knowledge she had gained from the Eternal Archives. The war between the hegemony and free worlds had spread to dozens of star systems. Without human mediators, ancient hatreds flared into violence that consumed entire worlds. Dr. Veltar brought Lisa devastating news from his research. The Coraxian plague had returned, spreading through refugee ships where medical supplies were running low. The Zephyrian trade routes were being attacked by pirates who had grown bold without human patrol fleets to stop them. Worst of all, the Devourers were moving faster than expected, their influence spreading through the dark regions of space. The Galactic Federation met an emergency session on Centauri Prime. Leaders from every major species gathered to hear Lisa's report about humanity's ascension. The news brought both hope and despair. Humans had not abandoned the galaxy, but they could never return to their old roles as physical peacekeepers and protectors. Ambassador Kethvar of the Threnody Empire spoke for many when he said, "If they have become these eternal guardians, can we ask them to come back? Can we force ascended beings to return to physical existence?" Dr. Veltar had been studying this exact question. His research suggested that consciousness could potentially be reversed from ascended state back to physical form, but only through an act of supreme sacrifice by the transcended beings themselves. They would have to choose to give up their cosmic awareness and power to become flesh and blood again. The risks were enormous. Forcing ascended beings back to physical form might destroy their consciousness entirely, leaving the galaxy defenseless against the cosmic threats only they could see and fight. But without human mediators and protectors, the galaxy's civilizations were tearing themselves apart. Fleet Commander Zixola coiled her serpentine form in distress. We are trapped between two disasters. If humans remain ascended, we destroy ourselves through war. If they return to physical form, cosmic horrors destroy us all. There must be another way. Lisa found herself at the center of an impossible decision. As the only human in physical existence, she could serve as a bridge between the living and the ascended. The ancient Akashic rituals required a genetic connection to the transcended species to establish meaningful communication. The ritual would be dangerous for Lisa. Opening her mind to ascended consciousness might kill her or drive her insane. But it was the only way to ask humanity directly what could be done to save the galaxy from its current crisis. Archivist Prime Zethamura agreed to guide Lisa through the ancient ceremony. They traveled to the Great Temple on Centauri Prime, a massive crystal structure built by a long-dead species for exactly this kind of communication between physical and ascended beings. Lisa lay on the crystal altar while alien scientists monitored her vital signs. Zethamura began the ritual by opening channels between dimensions that separated physical and transcended consciousness. Energy patterns flowed through the temple as reality itself seemed to bend and shift. The first contact was overwhelming. Lisa felt her mind expand beyond her skull, beyond her body, beyond the physical boundaries she had always known. She was suddenly aware of every living thing in the galaxy, every thought, every emotion, every act of kindness or cruelty happening across billions of worlds. Then she heard them. Familiar voices, speaking in harmony, yet still recognizably individual. Colonel Pete Davidson, now existing as pure consciousness, led ethereal forces against dark entities that threatened the galaxy's outer rim. His voice carried the same determination she remembered from their academy days. Lisa, old friend. Pete's consciousness touched hers. We can hear the galaxy's pain. We feel every death, every act of cruelty, every moment of despair. But we also see what you cannot see. Greater threats are coming from beyond known space. If we return to flesh, who will stand guard against them? Dr. Susan Clark's presence joined the conversation, her consciousness now spanning multiple dimensions, simultaneously. We tried to find another way, Lisa. We searched for a solution that would let us be both physical and transcended. But consciousness cannot exist in two states at once. We had to choose. The ascended humans showed Lisa visions of what was approaching from the cosmic void. The Devourers were merely scouts for something far worse. Behind them came the Entropy Collective, beings that viewed consciousness itself as a disease to be cured through universal death. They had consumed galaxy after galaxy, leaving nothing but empty space behind. Commander Tony Rodriguez manifested more solidly during the ritual, his form flickering between human appearance and pure energy. We made our choice, Lisa. We chose to become eternal guardians because we saw what would happen if we did not. But we never forgot our love for the physical universe, for all the species we called friends. Lisa experienced the full weight of humanity's sacrifice. They had given up everything that made life worth living in, order to gain the power needed to protect life itself. They could no longer enjoy a sunset, taste food, feel a friend's embrace, or experience any of the simple joys that made existence beautiful. All of that had been traded for the ability to fight cosmic horrors on behalf of those who could not. Admiral Nancy Foster's consciousness surrounded Lisa like a warm embrace. We hear every prayer, Lisa. Every plea for our return reaches us. We want to come back more than you can imagine. But love sometimes means making the hard choice, not the easy one. The ascended humans revealed their dilemma. They could return to physical form, but only by abandoning their protective posts in the cosmic void. The galaxy would have its human mediators and warriors back, but it would be defenseless against threats that could destroy entire galactic clusters. Captain Bill Harrison, who had died defending refugees, spoke with infinite sadness in his voice. "We are not gods, Lisa. We are still human in our hearts. We long for the warmth of physical existence, for the joy of helping people face to face. But we cannot abandon our duty when so much depends on us keeping watch." During the ritual, Lisa felt a presence that dwarfed all the others. This was the collective will of ascended humanity. Millions of consciousness joined in purpose while maintaining their individual personalities. They spoke to her with one voice that somehow contained all their separate identities. "We offer this compromise," they said. "We will periodically manifest physical forms for crucial interventions. When wars threaten to destroy civilizations, when plagues spread beyond control, when cosmic threats require both physical and transcended action. But we cannot permanently return to flesh. The galaxy must learn to maintain peace on its own, with us serving as guides rather than guardians." Lisa felt their infinite love and infinite sorrow. Humanity had become what the galaxy needed most, but at the cost of becoming what they themselves wanted least. They were eternal protectors who could never again be protected. Eternal helpers who could never again be helped. As the ritual ended and Lisa returned to normal consciousness, she carried with her the weight of humanity's choice and the terrible knowledge of what was coming from the cosmic dark. The galaxy would have to decide whether to accept humanity's compromise or face the future without their protection. The breakthrough came from an unexpected place. The Eternal Archives, a vast library kept by the ancient Akashic Order, contained records going back millions of years. Archivist Prime Zethmura was a being so old that her species had forgotten its original name. She had been waiting for someone to ask the right questions. Lisa Park stood in the crystal halls of the archives, surrounded by floating displays of ancient knowledge. The information here was older than most stars, collected by civilizations that had risen and fallen before her galaxy even existed. Zethmura's form shifted like liquid light as she spoke in a voice that sounded like distant music. "What happened to your people has happened before," Zethmura said. "Every 50,000 years a species achieves perfect balance. They transcend physical existence while keeping their protective love for younger races. We call this the ascension, Doctor." Feltar studied the ancient records with amazement. The archives showed detailed accounts of dozens of species that had undergone similar transformations throughout galactic history. Each one had reached a point where their consciousness evolved beyond the need for physical bodies. "The pattern is always the same," Zethmura explained. "A species develops both fierce individual will and deep collective compassion. They learn to fight when necessary but prefer peace. Most importantly, they develop an unbreakable drive to protect others, even at the cost of their own lives." Lisa felt her heart racing as she understood the implications. Humans had achieved this balance faster than any species in recorded history. Their unique combination of warrior spirit and protective instinct had accelerated their evolutionary journey beyond what anyone thought possible. The archives showed images of the last species to ascend, called the gardeners. They had been plant-based beings who spent their existence nurturing life on barren worlds. When they transcended, they became an invisible force that kept the galaxy's ecosystem stable. Their influence could still be felt in how quickly damaged worlds recovered from disasters. General Steve Murphy had been humanity's last military commander in contact with alien forces. His final message had been an order to protect the innocent, regardless of what species they are. According to the archives, that protection had never ended. It had simply changed form. Admiral Nancy Foster, who had commanded humanity's defensive fleets, had dedicated her life to keeping aggressive species from threatening peaceful worlds. Her tactical brilliance had maintained galactic stability for decades. The evidence suggested that her strategic mind was still working, now operating on a scale beyond physical understanding. Lisa learned that ascended species became the galaxy's immune system, protecting younger civilizations from threats they could not yet comprehend. The Devourers, the ancient hive mind that was stirring in dark space, had been kept asleep by previous ascended species. Now that responsibility had passed to humanity, Zethmura showed Lisa visions of what lay beyond the known galaxy. The Devourers were massive beings that consumed consciousness itself, leaving empty shells of matter behind. Beyond them were even worse things. The Entropy Collective, creatures of pure destruction that had eaten entire galactic clusters. Your species saw these threats approaching, Zethmura said. They chose ascension not to escape physical existence, but to gain the power needed to stand guard against what is coming. They became eternal protectors because someone had to watch the void. Commander Tony Rodriguez had been a defense coordinator before his disappearance. His job had been protecting refugee convoys from pirate attacks. The archives suggested that his protective instincts had expanded beyond the physical realm. He now guarded against threats that living minds could not perceive. Dr. Susan Clark had been researching quantum consciousness when she vanished. Her studies of how thoughts might exist without brains had apparently led her to the answer humanity needed. She had helped guide her entire species through the ascension process, ensuring that their protective nature remained intact. Lisa discovered that ascended beings could still influence the physical world, but only in limited ways. They could not return to flesh and blood existence. They could not directly fight physical battles or negotiate physical treaties. They became eternal guardians, forever watching over the galaxy, but forever separated from the corporeal beings they protected. The cost of ascension was terrible and beautiful. The transcended species gained incredible power to protect the galaxy from cosmic threats, but they lost the ability to touch, to laugh with friends, to enjoy simple pleasures. They became living love, consciousness devoted entirely to protecting others. Captain Bill Harrison had died years earlier defending a refugee convoy from pirates. His monument on Haven Station had become a place where travelers prayed for safe journeys. The archive suggested that his protective spirit had never stopped working. He had simply expanded his guard duty to cover threats beyond physical space. Dr. Rachel Kim had been a medical researcher, looking for cures to diseases that affected multiple species. Her laboratory had been working on treatments that could save billions of lives. According to the ancient records, her healing work had continued after ascension, now operating through quantum influences on biological systems. The truth was both wonderful and heartbreaking. Humanity had not abandoned the galaxy in its time of need. They had given up everything they were to become what the galaxy needed them to be. Every prayer to human heroes had been heard and answered, just not in ways that physical beings could easily understand. Zethmura revealed the final piece of the puzzle. Ascended species traditionally manifested physical forms during the galaxy's greatest crises, but only temporarily and at great cost to themselves. They could appear when their presence was absolutely necessary, but each manifestation weakened their ability to guard against cosmic threats. Lisa understood now why the quantum signals from human space always carried the same messages. The watch continues. Protection holding. Love endures. These were not cries for help or attempts to communicate complex information. They were simple reassurances that humanity's protective love was still there, still working, still watching over the galaxy they had chosen to guard forever. The galaxy had been pleading for humanity's return, not knowing that humans had answered by becoming something far greater than they had been before. They had evolved into eternal guardians, sacrificing their physical existence to gain the power needed to protect everyone they loved from threats beyond imagination. The galaxy was falling apart faster than anyone had thought possible. Without human peacekeepers to stop fights before they started, old enemies remembered old hatred. The Great War between the Hegemony Empire and the Free Worlds Coalition finally began when their peace talks failed. Ambassador Kate Williams had prevented this exact war 3 times in the past 10 years. Her patient voice and clever mind had found solutions when both sides wanted to fight. Now the conference room where she used to work sat empty, and the 2 great powers prepared their fleets for battle. Lisa Park received reports of the fighting from her ship, Unity's Dawn. Entire star systems were being evacuated as the war spread. Refugee ships fled in all directions, carrying families away from the combat zones. Without human protection fleets to keep them safe, Many refugee ships were attacked by pirates. Dr. Veltar made a discovery that chilled everyone who heard it. He had been studying exactly when the humans disappeared, checking time records from across the galaxy. Every human had vanished at exactly 12 Yang Universal Standard Time on the same day. Not just on one world or in one region, but everywhere at once. This was not an accident or an attack, Dr. Veltar explained to Lisa and the other researchers. Every human in the galaxy, from Earth to the furthest colonies, disappeared at exactly the same moment. This level of coordination suggests they chose to leave together. Captain Rick Johnson had been talking to a Threnody trader about shipping contracts when the event happened. The alien trader described how Rick stopped talking. In the middle of a sentence, smiled peacefully and faded away like starlight. His ship was found later, drifting in space with all systems working but no crew. The Vorthak swarm grew bolder as the galaxy's wars expanded. Their living ships had always been afraid to enter human space, but now they began testing the invisible barriers. Scout ships approached the border and immediately pulled back, their biohulls screaming in frequencies that hurt to hear. Commander Lisa Park decided to investigate what was keeping the swarm away. She took a small team to the edge of human space in a specially shielded ship. As they approached the barrier, all their instruments started showing impossible readings. "There is something here," reported Lieutenant Jake Stevens, Lisa's science officer. "Energy readings like nothing in our databases. It feels alive somehow, but not like any life we know." The ship's sensors detected massive energy patterns moving through the void where human space began. These patterns seemed to respond to the presence of the Vorthak ships, growing stronger when the biovessels approached. Whatever was protecting the human border, it was intelligent and powerful. Dr. Elena Martinez had been studying similar energy patterns before her disappearance. Her research station orbited a dead star at the edge of human territory. Lisa's team found Elena's laboratory exactly as she had left it, with experiments still running and data still being collected. Elena's research notes talked about consciousness projection and quantum entanglement of souls. Her handwriting became excited and rushed in the final entries. The last note she wrote said, "We are not leaving. We are becoming something more. The transformation is beautiful." Lisa read Elena's notes with growing amazement and fear. The research suggested that consciousness itself could exist without a physical body under certain conditions. Elena had been studying how thoughts and memories might survive the death of the brain that created them. As the galaxy's wars spread, desperate people began praying to human heroes as if they were gods who could hear them. Shrines appeared around, statues of human peacekeepers. Children left drawings and flowers at memorials asking the missing humans to come back and make the scary fighting stop. Captain Steve Collins had died 5 years earlier defending a hospital ship from pirates. His statue in the main square of Kepler Station became covered with offerings from grateful aliens. People came from across the sector to pray at his memorial, begging him to watch over them from wherever he had gone. General Pete Davidson had commanded the human defense fleets that kept aggressive species from attacking peaceful worlds. His tactical genius had prevented countless wars through shows of strength that made enemies think twice. Now, without his fleets to maintain order, chaos spread across the galaxy. The strangest reports came from places where humans had died heroically in the past. Sensors detected energy signatures at old battlefields where human soldiers had fallen protecting others. Memorial sites registered temperature changes and electromagnetic fluctuations that science could not explain. Admiral Nancy Foster had sacrificed her life and her entire fleet to stop the Caraxian plague ships from reaching populated worlds. Her final order had been to ram her flagship into the disease carriers even though it meant certain death. Now, 50 years later, her memorial beacon was broadcasting signals on frequencies that should have been impossible. Lisa's team intercepted some of these memorial transmissions. They were short and unclear, but some words came through. Still here. Still protecting. Love never dies. The voices sounded human, but also different, as if they were speaking from very far away. The war between the hegemony and free worlds reached new levels of destruction. Without human mediators, Neither side trusted the other enough to accept peace offers. Billions of people fled their homes as the fighting consumed entire sectors of space. The Caraxian scientist Dr. Veltar brought Lisa more troubling news. His research showed that other species had tried to fill the role humans had played as galactic peacekeepers. All of them had failed. Something about human psychology made them uniquely suited to the job of keeping different species from destroying each other. Humans had a gift, Dr. Veltar explained. They could understand the fears and hopes of species very different from themselves. More importantly, they were willing to sacrifice themselves to protect others, even former enemies. No other species has shown this combination of empathy and courage. As the galaxy burned, Lisa Park prepared for her mission to reach Earth. The special ship was almost ready, designed with the best technology from all the major species. If answers existed anywhere, they would be found on humanity's homeworld. But time was running out. The Devourers were stirring in the dark regions beyond known space. Ancient sensors placed by long-dead civilizations were detecting movement in the void. Something that had slept for millions of years was beginning to wake. The galaxy needed its human guardians back, but Lisa was starting to fear that wherever they had gone, they might not be able to return. 6 months after the humans disappeared, the Galactic Federation started the biggest search in history. Every major species sent ships and crews to help find the missing humans or learn what happened to them. They had to know the truth. Captain Lisa Park commanded the search mission from a ship called Unity's Dawn. She was special because she was human, but she had been living with the Altarian aliens for 20 years. She had left Earth after arguing with human leaders about how to treat alien colonies. Now she was the only human the galaxy could find. Lisa knew how humans thought and acted. The alien leaders hoped she could solve the mystery that their best scientists could not. Her black hair was streaked with gray now, and her brown eyes held sadness for her missing people. She wore the blue uniform of the Altarian Navy, but everyone knew she was really working for all the galaxy species. The search teams found more strange things on every human world they visited. On New Terra, the farming planet, machines, still, worked perfectly. Giant harvesters moved through fields of grain, cutting and storing crops that no one would eat. Warehouses filled with food while the storage computers waited for shipping orders that never came. Commander Alex Rodriguez had been in charge of New Terra's defense. His office looked like he had just stepped out for lunch. A cup of coffee sat on his desk with a brown ring staining the wood underneath. His computer showed a half-finished report about trading with the Zephyrian species. Personal photos of his family smiled from the walls, but the family was gone. Lisa walked through Alex's office and felt her heart break a little more. She had known Alex when they were both young officers on Earth. He had been a good man who cared about protecting people. His disappearance hurt her deeply. On the research station called Olympus, Dr. Maria Santos's lab was still running experiments. Machines hummed and flashed lights as they studied dark matter and energy. The results looked incredible, showing ways to make faster space travel possible. But there was no one to read the data or understand what it meant. Lisa studied Maria's research notes and felt amazed. The missing scientist had been close to breakthroughs that could change how the galaxy worked. Her experiments with quantum energy showed promise for travel between distant stars in seconds instead of months. All of this knowledge sat unused while its creator was gone. The most frightening discovery came from human cemeteries and memorial sites. Someone was taking care of them. Fresh flowers appeared every few days. Grass was cut and weeds were pulled. Memorial flames burned constantly as if someone was tending them. But security cameras never showed who was doing the work. Lisa's team set up special equipment to watch a memorial garden on New Terra. The garden honored human soldiers who had died protecting alien refugees from pirates. For 3 days, nothing happened. Then, on the 4th morning, new flowers had appeared around every grave marker. The cameras showed nothing but empty gardens all night long. Dr. Veltar worked with Lisa to study strange signals coming from human space. The messages were very short and came on frequencies that biological brains should not be able to use. The words were always the same. The watch continues. Protection holding. Love endures. It is as if they are trying to tell us something, Dr. Veltar said, his 6 eyes blinking in confusion. But the signals make no scientific sense. Living minds cannot broadcast on those quantum frequencies. Lisa listened to recordings of the messages over and over. Something about the voices seemed familiar, but she could not place them. They sounded human, but also different, like echoes of people she might have known long ago. The search expanded to cover hundreds of human worlds and space stations. Every location told the same story. No signs of fighting or panic, no bodies or destruction. Everything left neat and tidy, as if the humans had simply decided to leave and had cleaned up before going. Captain Tony Davis had commanded a defense platform protecting a trade route. His crew of 200 humans had vanished with him, but the platform still worked perfectly. Its weapons tracked every ship that passed, ready to defend against pirates that never came. The AI systems asked for orders every day, speaking to empty corridors. Lieutenant Amy Foster had been running a small research base studying alien plant life. Her greenhouse was full of beautiful flowers and strange alien trees. Automated systems watered them and kept them healthy. Her research log showed she had been close to finding new medicines that could help many species. Now her work continued without her. Lisa's team intercepted more quantum signals. These were longer and seemed to contain complex information, but they could not decode the meaning. The signals came from the direction of Earth, humanity's original homeworld, but that planet was inside the zone where ships stopped working. "We need to try reaching Earth," Lisa told the Federation Council during a video meeting. "If there are answers anywhere, they will be there, but we will need a special ship that can survive whatever is affecting our technology in human space." The Council agreed to build a ship using the most advanced alien technology available. It would have backup systems for the backup systems and shielding that could protect against unknown energy fields. Lisa would command this special mission to reach Earth and find the truth about her missing people. As construction began, more bad news arrived from across the galaxy. The hegemony and free worlds were mobilizing their fleets for war. Ancient enemies were making threats they had not made in centuries. The Vorthak swarm was testing the borders of human space, looking for weaknesses. Lisa stood on the observation deck of Unity's Dawn and watched the stars. Somewhere out there, her people had vanished without a trace. The galaxy was falling apart without them, but she was the only human left to find answers. The weight of billions of lives pressed down on her shoulders as she prepared for the most important mission in galactic history. The council chamber on Centauri Prime filled with worried voices. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat around the large crystal table, their various forms creating strange shadows in the blue light. Ambassador Kethivar of the Threnodi Empire hit the table with his forearms, making the crystals ring like bells. "It has been 72 days, he said, his words translated by machines into sounds the others could understand. 72 days, since we heard anything from the humans. Fleet Commander Zixola moved her snake-like body nervously. Her scales changed color from blue to dark red, showing how worried she felt. The humans had been keeping peace in the galaxy for 300 years. When different species fought, humans came to help them talk instead of fight. Now they were gone. Dr. Veltar, a tall alien with 6 eyes, showed pictures in the air above the table. "We sent teams to check the human worlds. What we found makes no sense. Their cities are perfect. Nothing is broken. No dead bodies anywhere. But no living humans either." The pictures showed empty human streets. Cars sat parked in neat rows. Gardens were still green and healthy. Inside houses, meals sat on tables as if people had just stepped away for a moment. Even the human pets were fine, with full food bowls and clean water. "The strangest thing is their space," Dr. Veltar continued. "Ships that go into human territory stop working. All the machines fail. Communication stops. Navigation breaks down. Most ships have to be rescued." Commander Zixola spoke up. "The Vorthak swarm has been moving toward human space for years. They eat everything in their path. But now they have stopped at the human border. They will not cross the line. Our scouts report that their ships scream when they get too close, Captain." Jake Morrison had been the last human anyone talked to. He commanded a colony ship called New Horizon. His final message was normal and friendly. Everything is working fine here. Moving people to new homes as planned. Talk to you soon, friends. The aliens in the council looked at each other with fear in their strange eyes. Without humans to help them, wars were starting everywhere. The big hegemony empire and the free world's coalition were getting ready to fight. Old enemies were remembering old fights. Worst of all, something called the Devourers was waking up in the dark parts of space. The humans had kept them sleeping somehow, but now they were stirring. Dr. Veltar showed more pictures. These came from a human research station floating in deep space. The station was working perfectly. Computers were running experiments that had been started months ago. Science equipment hummed and beeped, collecting data that no one was there to read. The station's AI kept asking for instructions, but no humans answered. In the station's main lab, Dr. Maria Santos had been working on something big. Her notes talked about bending space itself to make ships go faster than light. The experiments were still running and the results looked amazing, but Dr. Santos was gone like all the rest. "We found something else," Dr. Veltar said quietly. "Human graves and monuments show signs of recent care. Fresh flowers appear regularly. Someone or something is taking care of these places. Our cameras see nothing, but the work keeps getting done." Ambassador Kethvar's patches of light flickered faster. This was how his people showed deep worry. "We have intercepted strange signals from human space. They sound like voices, but they come from frequencies that living brains cannot use. The messages are short. The watch continues. Protection holding. Love endures." The council chamber fell silent. Outside the windows, 3 moons hung in the purple sky. Ships from a dozen worlds sat in the station's docking bays. All of them had come here looking for answers about the missing humans. None of them had found any. Commander Zixola coiled her long body into a worried spiral. "My people have an old saying, when the guardians vanish, the wolves come hunting. I fear we are about to learn what that means." In the weeks that followed, the situation got worse. The war between the hegemony and free worlds moved closer to reality. Neither side trusted the other without human mediators to keep them honest. Ambassador Kate Williams had prevented 17 wars in her career. Now there was no one with her skills to stop the fighting. Captain Rick Johnson had been talking to alien traders when he disappeared. The alien said he was in the middle of a sentence about shipping routes when he suddenly smiled and faded away like morning mist. His ship was found drifting in space, all systems working but completely empty. The mystery deepened when exploration teams found that every human had vanished at exactly the same time. No matter where they were in the galaxy, all humans disappeared at 12 Dubasca Universal Standard Time on the same day. This was not random. Something had happened to all humans everywhere at once. Religious leaders from different species began to pray to human heroes as if they were gods. Statues of human peacekeepers became holy places where people left offerings and asked for help. Children drew pictures of human soldiers watching over them from the sky. The galaxy was learning what it meant to be alone. For 3 centuries, humans had been the ones others called when things went wrong. They fixed problems, stopped wars, and protected the weak. Now they were gone, and no one knew how to fill the empty space they had left behind. As the council meeting ended, each representative returned to their homeworld with the same terrible news. The humans were gone, but their empty cities and silent ships suggested they had not been taken by force. Whatever had happened to humanity, they had chosen it themselves. The council chamber on Zentari Prime filled with worried voices. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat around the large crystal table, their various forms creating strange shadows in the blue light. Ambassador Kethvar of the Threnodi Empire hit the table with his 4 arms, making the crystals ring like bells. "It has been 72 days, he said, his words translated by machines into sounds the others could understand. 72 days since we heard anything from the humans. Fleet Commander Zixola moved her snake-like body nervously. Her scales changed color from blue to dark red, showing how worried she felt. The humans had been keeping peace in the galaxy for 300 years. When different species fought, humans came to help them talk instead of fight. Now they were gone. Dr. Veltar, a tall alien with 6 eyes, showed pictures in the air above the table. We sent teams to check the human worlds. What we found makes no sense. Their cities are perfect. Nothing is broken. No dead bodies anywhere. But no living humans either. The pictures showed empty human streets. Cars sat parked in neat rows. Gardens were still green and healthy. Inside houses, meals sat on tables as if people had just stepped away for a moment. Even the human pets were fine, with full food bowls and clean water. The strangest thing is their space, Dr. Veltar continued. Ships that go into human territory stop working. All the machines fail. Communication stops. Navigation breaks down. Most ships have to be rescued. Commander Zixola spoke up. The Vortex swarm has been moving toward human space for years. They eat everything in their path. But now they have stopped at the human border. They will not cross the line. Our scouts report that their ships scream when they get too close, Captain. Jake Morrison had been the last human anyone talked to. He commanded a colony ship called New Horizon. His final message was normal and friendly. Everything is working fine here. Moving people to new homes is planned. Talk to you soon, friends. The aliens in the council looked at each other with fear in their strange eyes. Without humans to help them, wars were starting everywhere. The Big Hegemony Empire and the Free Worlds Coalition were getting ready to fight. Old enemies were remembering old fights. Worst of all, something called the Devourers was waking up in the dark parts of space. The humans had kept them sleeping somehow, but now they were stirring. Dr. Veltar showed more pictures. These came from a human research station floating in deep space. The station was working perfectly. Computers were running experiments that had been started months ago. Science equipment hummed and beeped, collecting data that no one was there to read. The station's AI kept asking for instructions, but no humans answered. In the station's main lab, Dr. Maria Santos had been working on something big. Her notes talked about bending space itself to make ships go faster than light. The experiments were still running and the results looked amazing, but Dr. Santos was gone like all the rest. We found something else, Dr. Veltar said quietly. Human graves and monuments show signs of recent care. Fresh flowers appear regularly. Someone or something is taking care of these places. Our cameras see nothing, but the work keeps getting done. Ambassador Kethvar's patches of light flickered faster. This was how his people showed deep worry. We have intercepted strange signals from human space. They sound like voices, but they come from frequencies that living brains cannot use. The messages are short. The watch continues. Protection holding. Love endures. The council chamber fell silent. Outside the windows, 3 moons hung in the purple sky. Ships from a dozen worlds sat in the station's docking bays. All of them had come here looking for answers about the missing humans. None of them had found any. Commander Zixola coiled her long body into a worried spiral. My people have an old saying, when the guardians vanish, the wolves come hunting.